Coming up on We Talk News this week, it's a new year, and there are plenty of new laws in the cannabis world from coast to coast. We'll have a review. Plus, the DEA flexes its regulatory muscles and puts a damper on the hope for rescheduling after missing the president's deadline at the end of last year. Snoop Dogg is heading to the Olympics in Paris, France this summer, reporting for NBC. No word on if he will be subject to drug testing. The UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship organization, is the latest in professional sports to take cannabis off its list of tested substances. So, what country do you think consumes the most cannabis? USA, Canada, Jamaica? How about none of the above? Find out which country on We Talk News with Alaina Pinto. Next.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to a new year of Weed Talk News, Pro Cannabis Media's weekly roundup of what's going on in the cannabis world in the U.S. and around the world. I'm Alaina Pinto. And even in the first week of 2024, many states are implementing changes to their cannabis laws and regulations. The most impactful change might be happening in Oklahoma. Have you heard of the secret shopper concept? Well, that's when an unidentified regulator goes into a dispensary to make a purchase and test if that dispensary is following the rules of that state. And now Oklahoma will be doing just that and hiring these secret shoppers. Sounds like a pretty good gig, but you won't make too many friends in that state. In Colorado, 10 years to the day of that state's first legal adult use sale. The changes that go into effect now in 2024 include adding a use-by date on all products. And after all, we want to make sure that dispensaries have the freshest flower, right? And increasing the speed of consumption is good for business too. Nevada is raising the legal amount to possess from 1 ounce of flower to 2.5 ounces. For concentrates, the amount increases from 1/8 to 1/4 of an ounce. Many of the biggest changes in the law this year relate to increased protections for employee drug testing, both inside and outside the industry. And Washington State has been working on this for a while. And with more on that, here's our Washington State correspondent, Matthew Friedlander.
Hello, everybody. Matthew Friedlander coming to you from the owner's office here at Skagit Organics with the Washington State Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. So this is our first report of the year, and the new year means new cannabis laws have gone into effect. One of those laws bars employers from testing prospective employees for cannabis during the hiring process. Great news if you are looking for work and you want to continue your cannabis use. There are exemptions to the law, however, so be aware of that. And employers can still maintain a drug and alcohol-free workplace, meaning they can test you for cannabis after you've been hired. A notable event that happened recently here in Washington, the Cannabis Alliance held a town hall for patients and the Department of Health to discuss changes for the medical cannabis program here in Washington. There were a lot of people in the room. There were several Department of Health representatives there, so that was good to see. And it seems that good progress was made on how to deal with those changes in the upcoming legislative session. Speaking of which, our legislative session starts on Monday, and we expect there to be a lot of action in the cannabis realm around out-of-state ownership, changes to the patient medical program, like I said, and many other things. So I will be reporting on that in the weeks to come. That's what I've got for you today. I am Matthew reporting for Weed Talk News. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
1 year into New York's opening of their adult use legal market, that state continues to limp along. The state did report that it should surpass $150 million in legal sales for 2023 once the month of December sales are tabulated. Those legal sales include totals from all 40 of the legal dispensaries open in the state. The biggest problem in the Empire State continues to be the illegal operations. Over 8,000 shops continue to operate and pay fines, regularly accepting the fines, honestly, as more of a cost of doing business rather than punitive. With more from New York, here's Pam Schmiel with the New York Cannabis Report, sponsored by the Union Square Travel Agency, a dispensary in Manhattan.
I'm Pam Schmiel with the New York Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. This show is now sponsored by the Union Square Travel Agency, one of the first dispensaries to open in New York City. 6 MSOs have been given the green light to join the recreational market in New York, while thousands of independent entrepreneurs wait for their licenses to get approved by the state. But surprisingly, 2 MSOs, Green Thumb Industries and Ianthus, did not get approved, and the reason is still unclear. And New York Governor Hochul did not extend the right for farmers to sell their flower at cannabis farmers markets in 2024. The farmers depended on the farmers market to unload their backlog of unsold flower due to the few dispensaries open in the state. The governor claims that the farmers markets will take business away from the new dispensaries that are scheduled to open in 2024. But the 8,000 illegal dispensaries that continue to operate across the state are still operating without legal consequences. And lastly, so far in 2023, New York has sold over 3.5 million cannabis products. It may seem like a lot, but New York is a state of 20 million people, and 70% of the population consumes cannabis. That's this week's New York Cannabis Report. I'm Pam Schmiel for Weed Talk News.
The New York Cannabis Report is sponsored by Union Square Travel Agency, a new travel agency in New York City. That's right, this Union Square Travel Agency specializes in journeys of a different kind. They sell cannabis. Visit them at 13th and Broadway or unionsquaretravelagency.com. For use by adults 21 and older, keep out of reach of children and pets. In case of accidental ingestion or overconsumption, contact the National Poison Control Center and consume responsibly.
In Virginia, that new state is starting to get their medical program ready to transition over to adult use. Those existing medical distributors will be allowed to shift over to adult use, and the regulatory body, the Virginia Cannabis Control Group, will be responsible for both entities. So what is going on with federal reform? Not much. The biggest news out of Washington, D.C. over the past few weeks is that the DEA is reminding all that it's their decision if cannabis will be rescheduled. The DEA already missed President Biden's deadline of ruling on this before the end of last year. So with more from the nation's capital and Maryland, here's Andrew Behringer.
Hello, my name is Andrew Behringer, and this is the DC area report for Weed Talk News. Now, on the federal level, the politics around federal cannabis reform continues to intensify. An executive order from President Biden last year set off a review of cannabis laws, with the DEA now weighing input on potentially rescheduling cannabis. Their decision holds major implications. Shifting cannabis from a restrictive Schedule 1 down to a Schedule 3 could unlock avenues for federal tax relief and other incremental changes sought by reform advocates. Vocal lawmakers are urging momentum, but obstacles still remain. Details on the health department's underlying recommendation remain redacted, and the DEA reminds everyone that they still assert full control to reject advice regardless of anyone else's input. Opposition letters urge maintaining harsh status quo laws with no clear timetable. Caught in the balance are growing bipartisan calls for reform from governors, lawmakers, and public majorities now legalizing cannabis in state after state. The Biden administration must navigate political crosscurrents as advocates mark a year since the president's mass pardons for cannabis offenses. While definitive national change remains over the horizon, the DEA's impending cannabis decision will set the tone on Capitol Hill. The choice may be binary on the surface, but has already unleashed layers of complexity that run deep. Now, back in the news in Virginia, as a reminder, it became the 20th state to pass adult use cannabis. While retail sales technically became legal January 1st, under the Virginia law, Cannabis Control Act, lawmakers left regulatory details incomplete. Oversight transferred from the Pharmacy Board to a new authority who must still establish ground rules for the retail market. When those retail sales might practically launch remains unclear for now. Lastly, in the Maryland cannabis market is facing delays. State regulators received over 1,700 cannabis license applications so far, swamping the initial 179 licenses that are available. Citing the towering stack of proposals now awaiting review, authorities push back the licensing timetable. Applicants eager to open this year face lengthening odds. Well, that's going to do it for the DC area report for this week. Once again, I'm Andrew Behringer for We Talk News.
There should be plenty of new reforms in Europe and in other parts of the world in 2024. The Ukrainian legislative body has passed a law to legalize medical cannabis. All that needs to happen now is to get an approval signature from President Zelensky. Music, commercial acting, and advocacy all keep Snoop Dogg busy. He is now expanding into broadcasting too. NBC Network has signed on one of the most recognizable advocates for cannabis to help them cover the Paris Summer Games this summer. No word, though, on exactly what Snoop Dogg will be doing, but he's probably not going to march with the American flag for the opening ceremonies. Been some developments regarding MedMen, and a new large player is emerging in that state. Karen Black has more in our Arizona Cannabis Report.
I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Mint Cannabis received an early Christmas gift. The Guadalupe-based MSO agreed to buy a dispensary in Scottsdale and a cultivation facility in Mesa, along with some assets in Nevada, from MedMen Enterprises late last year. The move aligns with Mint's plan to expand to key markets, according to CEO Ivan Shahara. Arizona is putting cannabis tax revenues to good use. The Department of Health Services recently awarded its first round of grants to 18 nonprofits through the Justice Reinvestment Program, which was established with the legalization of adult use. The awards are meant to help communities most affected by past drug enforcement, arrests, and incarceration. Recipients include organizations offering legal aid, job training, daycare, youth development, and substance abuse prevention, among others. Gun ownership for Arizona medical cannabis patients may be on the ballot this fall. The Wesson Freedom Team has applied to start a petition for the Wesson Gun Equality Act. They claim medical card holders should be allowed to own firearms absent felonies or major mental health issues, and that existing restrictions violate the Second and 14th Amendments of the U.S. Constitution. We'll keep you updated on this important initiative. And finally, the new year has brought new opportunities to Arizona. Despite concerns about market saturation, several new products and brands made their debut in the state, offering Arizonans more options to enjoy cannabis in its many forms. That's this week's Arizona Cannabis Report. I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting, reporting for Weed Talk News.
The UFC, or Ultimate Fighting Championship League, has stopped testing for cannabis in 2024. Well, actually, they stopped testing for that substance in 2021, but now it's removing cannabis altogether from its list of banned substances. Many of the U.S. professional sports leagues have done the same over the past few years. 2023 was a good year for the Michigan cannabis industry. As many states saw declining sales and licenses, Michigan continues to grow. One person who is right in the middle of that industry in her home state of Michigan is Amy Carter. And here's her Michigan Cannabis Report.
Hi everyone, this is Amy Carter with Michigan Weedsters for this week's Weed Talk News. The medical marijuana sector, once a significant part of the state's legal cannabis industry, is declining. In November 2023, medical sales dropped to just 2.8% of total marijuana sales. Strict regulations that distinguish medical and adult use dispensaries are causing operators to move away from maintaining medical licenses. Medical marijuana cards and the caregivers have also dropped at alarming numbers in our state. Many people don't understand that a medical marijuana card protects you under the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. To find out more, go to MichiganWeedsters.com. This is Amy Carter from Michigan Weedsters reporting for Weed Talk News.
Our California reporter, Lavana Vassow, will not be reporting this week, but we'll be back next week with details on that state's decision to shut down all testing labs in order to control labeling errors and mistakes. Missouri's Brandon Jones is back for another year of his unique style of sharing the news from his state with the Missouri Cannabis Report.
Hey everybody, it's Brandon Jones with Be Green Distribution with Missouri Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. The first one back of the year. Everybody excited for 2024? I know I'm excited. I can't believe another year, more states going to be passing legalization. And here in Missouri, yes, we passed the $1.3 billion mark last year. So yes, 1.3 billion sold here in the state of Missouri. There has been a couple of things going on lately here, specifically in Kansas City, with some legal issues. The big project over at Smoky River and Riverbend, they've had a couple of warrants out for arrest with a couple of people on the board. And there's been a lot of just moving and shifting around, some resigning and things going on. So we're also seeing a lot of the licenses being purchased by just a few. So there is looking like there's going to be some stepping in here by DHSS to make sure that not all the licenses are being bought by just a few companies and turning it into a monopoly. So a lot of things going on here in Missouri, a lot more events getting ready to happen, consumption happening everywhere, and we're excited for 2024. So hopefully we'll pass 1.5 billion this year. I think it's a great goal that Missouri can pass. So again, I'm Brandon Jones with the Be Green Distribution Missouri Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Stay medicated and educated. Have a great week.
It's been a good year for the New Jersey cannabis industry. Why? It's growing, even though home grow continues to be banned. Now, when that state's adult use sales began in April of 2022, there were just 22 stores. Well, now there are 79, and more than half cater to both adult use and medical consumers. Jill Goldsberry has more in her Garden State Cannabis Report.
Hey everyone, it's Jill here with We Talk News. We're back. Happy 2024. And let's get into it. New Jersey cannabis. What's going on? First week out. Home grow is the topic. Okay. We're seeing New Jersey advocates have made progress in gathering support for medical cannabis home grow legalization in the state. Advocates Edward Lefty Grimes and Jesse Villars of Sativa Cross and Baked by the River Dispensary were out at the State House to lobby, and they have gained some support. They got to talk to State Senator Nicholas Guattari. Apparently, he is the gatekeeper on making this happen. Why? Well, Guattari claimed that multiple times he's feared that legalization will cut into the profits of the state and could harm the industry. Of course, this may not be true. And we all know this because the percentage of people that are actually going to home grow are not going to be enough that it would cut into the industry for that level. So that's the sense that the state has, and that is why it's been blocked. But according to Executive Director Todd Johnson of the New Jersey Cannabis Trade Association, which represents licensed medical and adult use dispensaries, they are on board with medical cannabis home grow legalization. So, and at this point, the powers that be are saying there will be another session next Tuesday that will be discussed, where they will discuss this as well. So this is going to be an ongoing issue, and hopefully it will be passed this year, but there will be several more sessions before we know. I'm Jill Goldsberry with We Talk News. Thanks for watching. Happy New Year again, and let's hope for home grow in 2024.
It seems that any movement at all at the federal reform level in cannabis gives a boost to the volatile nature of cannabis stocks. Who better to give us a review of which stocks should be watched than our own Doug Miller in his High on Wall Street report?
I'm Doug Miller from High on Wall Street with this week's cannabis stock report for Weed Talk News. The DEA has confirmed that it is conducting a review into the reclassification of cannabis, but has asserted its final authority over the decision. It is amazing that we start off the year, which happens to be an election year, and now all of a sudden they want to review the reclassification of cannabis. In my opinion, it is a political move, but we won't get into politics. Rather, let's look and see how the stock charts look for the three biggest MSOs as we start 2024 and we receive that reclassification news. First, let's look at Curaleaf. It's trading around $4.36, and it's curling up and looking good, and it's all because of this news. Next, the cannabis company, formerly known as Columbia Care, it is trading around 58 cents and curling up as it gets to top, but it still wants to run some more. And finally, Cresco Labs is trading around $1.65, and it's curling up and it's ready to run some more. Obviously, the reclassification news is having a positive effect on all the cannabis stocks right now, and they all need it. As I mentioned before, if they don't get the reclassification or Safer Banking Act or something, I don't think any of these big MSOs will be around another year. And that's this week's cannabis stock report. Reporting for Weed Talk News, I'm Doug Miller.
What's the difference between the New York and Connecticut cannabis markets? Well, both are relatively new, but it's Connecticut where they are taking action against illegally operated stores. The Attorney General there sent a cease and desist order to a dispensary in Hamden, stating they were in violation of state law. The 24th legal adult use state, Ohio, continues to haggle over the law that voters supported a few months ago. Now the governor is getting involved by basically telling the state legislators there to get going. With the latest from that state is attorney and consultant Harry Bernstein.
Hi, this is Harry Bernstein with the Ohio Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Happy New Year to everyone, and it's an exciting new year in Ohio. We passed just 2 months ago adult use legalization laws, which became effective in December, and as of December 7th, Ohio adults were allowed to consume and use cannabis privately, as well as grow up to 6 plants in their house. That being said, there are no places to purchase it at this time because the regulations haven't been put into place. In fact, there's a lot of noise coming from Columbus that they are going to make some real amendments to the current law that's in place. This is going to be determined over the next couple months. There's going to be a lot of back and forth between the House and the Senate. The House in Ohio seems to want to put forth a more reasonable bill, which would leave most of the desires of the voters in place and maybe increase taxes a little bit, take away some social equity provisions and a few other things. The Senate proposal is much more of a step backwards proposal, which will put a lot of restrictions on the law that the voters just voted for and is not acceptable. In fact, even the governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, weighed in and said that he would prefer something in the middle. He actually advocated for a quicker path to adult use sales with the existing medical companies that are in place. So that's good to hear. I'm not so confident in that will actually be carried out, but we'll see. We anticipate that something will come forth in the next couple months. They do have other issues in Columbus that they are going to prioritize over cannabis, rewriting the cannabis law or amending the cannabis law or putting into place cannabis regulations, which we so drastically need. Also, the governor did mention that he is looking at efforts to kind of clarify the hemp-derived intoxicant issue. There's some conversation that they will include restrictions or limitations or just regulations, which again are needed on hemp-derived products. Most people believe that that's going to disappear with the adult use to some extent anyways, but it definitely needs to be regulated. So that's what's going on in Ohio. Again, a happy new year to all, and thank you very much.
And finally, at the top of the show, we ask you to think about what country consumes the most cannabis. You might have thought it's the United States, but you're wrong. More might think it's Jamaica. After all, the religious nature of the plant in the Rastafarian community is sacred. But sorry, man, it's not Jamaica. It's Israel. That's right. The small Middle Eastern country that is currently at war with the terrorist group Hamas. And according to analyzed data of the top 20 weed-smoking countries researchers used, Israel's small population is filled with 27% of adults who consume. That country has always been ahead of the game in medical research, including the late Raphael Mechoulam, who is credited with discovering the intoxicating chemical in the cannabis plant, THC, back in the 1960s. There you go. That's Weed Talk News for this week. I'm Alaina Pinto. Remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Looking for a brand new way to market your brand? I've got a unique product that I just partnered with, Disposable. Have you seen these yet? It comes flat, just like this, with a little one-page insert. Take it out of the plastic, and what? Two-page, two-sided insert, full color, put your QR code. And then, yes, inside, little origami trick, fold it out. It's a pipe inside, and it's cardboard and stainless steel. So yes, it's recyclable. Got a carb on the back. Here's your bowl. Stick it in. Now you're marketing yourself uniquely, and you provide your new clients with something to smoke some fire. I'm Brandon Jones with Be Green Distribution. You can find this product on begreendistribution.com.